There are moments in every life when the world is beautiful enough to break your heart. A particular quality of evening light, a child's laugh that echoes after the child has left the room, music that resolves in a way that makes you ache, and you don't know why you're aching, because nothing is wrong. The longing, the character in this story, I've felt it her whole life. Standing at the river's edge, staring at the other shore, she had tried for a long time to convince herself the feeling was a malfunction, that she was simply prone to dissatisfaction. That contentment was a discipline she hadn't mastered yet. But slowly, through years of living and losing, and loving and grieving, she had come to a different understanding. The longing was not a flaw. It was a signal. This shore was not a prison. That is important to say. It had genuine beauty, real relationships, seasons that changed and surprised her, work that mattered, in the way that making something always matters, grief that taught her things she could not have learned any other way, joy that arrived unexpectedly and stayed longer than she deserved. She loved this shore. She was not counting down the days until she could leave it. But there was the river, and on the other side, the city. She had spoken to others about the city. The conversations went different ways depending on who she was talking to. Some people had never seen it. When she described it, the towers in the haze, the sound that carried across the water on certain still mornings, they listened politely and changed the subject. They had made peace with the shore being all there was. She understood that. She did not begrudge them their peace. Some people had seen it, but kept the scene private, a vulnerability too large to share. And some, a smaller number, but growing over the years, had not only seen it, but had built their whole way of living around the certainty that the city was real and that the river could be crossed. These were the people who interested her most, because they were not escapists. They were not withdrawn from the shore, contemptuous of its beauty, waiting impatiently for something better. They were often the most alive people she had encountered, most present, most loving, most capable of genuine joy, precisely because they held the shore with open hands. They appreciated it without being owned by it. They knew it was not the last word, and knowing that, she came to believe, was what freed them to love it well. The river had different names depending on who you talked to. Some called it death. They said it as a fact, flat, final, a word that closed rather than opened. Others called it transition, which she found less honest, but understandable. A few, the older ones, the ones who had watched many people reach its edge, called it simply the crossing. Whatever its name, the river raised a question that she had been circling for years. Who gets to cross it, and to what? She had encountered many answers to this question. The most common one, comfortable, popular, was that everyone crosses, and everyone arrives at the same city, and the city receives all of them equally, regardless of how they lived or what they chose, or whether they even believed the city existed. It was a reassuring answer, but it troubled her on examination, because it made the river meaningless, and it made life on the shore meaningless too. Every choice equally weighted, every direction equally valid, whether you spent your years building or burning, loving or consuming, turning toward others or only inward. A city that received everyone equally was not a city of justice, and she had come to believe, after much grief and much witnessing of grief, that justice was not optional, that a reality without real accountability was not more loving. It was less true. But she had also encountered the opposite answer. The city is for the deserving, the good enough, the ones who cleared the bar. And this answer troubled her even more, because she knew herself. She knew the full inventory of who she had been. Not just the visible parts, but the interior, the motivations she had dressed in better clothes, the love that was sometimes love and sometimes something more self-interested. Wearing love's name, if the city required deserving, she was not certain she deserved it. She was not certain anyone did. So she kept asking. And one evening, sitting at the water's edge as the light changed on the other shore, she encountered the ferryman. He was not what she expected. She had grown up with images of this figure, dark, enigmatic, the collector of passage fares. What she found was different. He was bright in a way that was hard to explain, not glowing, nothing theatrical. Simply the kind of person in whose presence things become clearer. "You've been watching the other shore for a long time," he said. "My whole life," she said. "Is it real?" as real as this one. More in some ways. She gestured at the river. Can you take me across? That is why I'm here, he said. For everyone? He looked at her steadily. I made the crossing available for everyone, whether everyone takes it. He paused. That is not mine to force. The river cannot be crossed without me, but I do not carry anyone who does not choose to come. What does it cost? She asked. Nothing you have, he said. Everything I paid. She had heard words like these before, in a different form, in the community at the river's edge, in the old writings they read together. But hearing them here, at the water, with the other shore visible, and the boat real, and the ferryman present, they meant something different. They had the weight of things that are true. The city, she said. What is it like? The ferryman looked across the water. His expression was difficult to read, not because it was guarded, but because what was in it was too large for a single word. Everything you ever loved on the shore, he said finally, but complete, the way you always sensed it could be, but wasn't quite yet. Every joy you had here arrived with a shadow attached, the knowledge that it would end, or change, or be taken. There, he looked back at her. There is no shadow. The joy is the same shape, but the ending has been removed from it. She stood at the water's edge for a long time, not hesitating. She had passed the point of hesitation, something closer to savoring, the last moment on the shore before the next one began. She thought about the people she loved who had not yet come to the river's edge, about the ones still far from it, still convinced this shore was all there was, or still certain they would cross it eventually on their own merits. She wanted them to know about the boat, about the ferryman, about the fact that the cost was already covered, and the city was real, and the river was crossable, and the only requirement was choosing. She would come back for them, not to this shore. The crossing was one direction, but she would send word somehow, find a way to tell them. The ferryman did not announce their departure. He did not need to. The boat simply began to move toward the other shore, which was now fully visible, radiant in a light that had no evening in it. The city was not what she had imagined. It was more specific. The things she had imagined were always beautiful in a general way, light and peace and the absence of pain. Correct, as far as they went. But the city was particular, detailed, alive in the way that real things are alive, full of texture and color and sound, and the unmistakable sense of things mattering. She had expected, perhaps, that the city would be unfamiliar, a new place, beautiful, but foreign. What she found was the opposite. It was the most familiar thing she had ever experienced. Not because she had been here before. She hadn't. But because everything on the shore was the completed form of something she had always half recognized on the other side of the river. The beauty here was the same beauty as there, but fully itself, without the shadow of ending attached. The joy here was the same shape as the joy she had known, but without the grief that always bracketed it on the other shore. She understood now what the ferryman had meant. This was not a replacement for the life she had lived. It was its completion, the last chapter that gave all the previous ones their full meaning. She could still see them, and she understood, in the way you understand things in places where understanding arrives whole, that what she had to do now was not leave them behind. It was to make the other shore more real to them than it had been. That was what this shore asked of the people who had crossed. Not to forget where they came from, but to become, in the way they lived and spoke and loved, a kind of signal, a sound carried across the water, that the city was real, that the ferryman was real, that the crossing was available, and the cost was covered, and the other shore was worth every difficult step of the road that led to the river's edge. The city has many names in the old writings. The New Jerusalem, the kingdom of heaven, eternal life, the presence of God, unmediated, without veil. What it means, what the river and the crossing and the ferryman's words all point toward, is this: you were not made only for the shore. If you have felt the longing, that particular, unnamed ache for something more permanent than this life offers, I want you to know that the Christian tradition does not tell you to dismiss that feeling. It tells you that the feeling is accurate, that you were made for something the other shore only partially satisfies, that the river is real, the ferryman is real, and the city is more real and more specific, and more alive than anything you have ever imagined. And the crossing is available, not for the deserving, but for the choosing. The boat is at the water's edge. Subscribe for more stories from the river's edge, and more truth about what's on the other side. Until next time.